We've covered many different aspects of maintaining your bike here on GCN, but have you ever thought about actually making one? And I don't just mean assembling it together from all the different component parts, I mean actually welding or brazing together your very own frame. Well, this is the Bicycle Academy in Frome in the UK, and it exists to help people do just that. So with their assistance, we are going to take you through the process. This is how to build a bike frame. Now, Andrew Denham behind me is the founder of the Bicycle Academy, and he is going to be our teacher today. Andrew, I am ready to do some welding.
Wait a minute, Si, I think we're going to have to back up a second.
Really? Huh. Tom, I'm pretty adept at looking at a bike manufacturer's website and seeing a geometry chart and knowing whether or not a bike is going to fit me. But the idea of looking at a blank sheet of paper or a blank whiteboard and actually starting from scratch actually makes me a little bit nervous. So how do you do it? How do you get the geometry right?
Sure, so it is quite a tricky part of the process. And the first thing we've got to consider is the rider's position. Okay. We've got to make sure that their body is in a suitable position to allow them to use the bike properly, and that will depend slightly on what type of bike it is. So if we think about the rough shape of your contact points with the bike, so we've got a bottom bracket to which cranks will be attached, a saddle, a stem with some handlebars attached. What we're looking to define first and foremost is some boundaries about where we might be able to put the saddle and where we might be able to put the handlebars in order to suit that rider, but also what type of bike it is. So where we might aim for would be different depending on the type of bike. And then from that, we'll take some key measurements.
Yeah, so far so familiar. I know all of those numbers and I'm pretty confident, but how do we join that bit to that bit to that bit and know that the bike is going to handle brilliantly at the end of the day?
There is no quick answer to that, so it does take quite a lot of iterations, but there are a few things that we want to consider first and foremost. So thinking about how we want the bike to handle out on the road, specifically how it's going to respond to any dynamic rider input, we need to think about the most important dimensions, and those are wheelbase and the mechanical trail, which are defining the sort of straight line stability and also the cornering stability.
Okay, so we've got our fit points here. I'm still really concerned, Tom, about how I'm actually going to join it all up and make a frame out of it.
Sure, so once we've got everything sorted and we're happy with the rider position, then we start looking at a CAD system that we use to design the geometry, and then ultimately move on to the structure of the frame and stick some bits of metal together.
All right.
Okay, so once we've got the fit information from the fit session that we did, we can put that into the model in such a way that it fixes the rider's position. And that frees us up to design the geometry of the bike for the specifics of what we're looking to do. So we can set the wheelbase, and we can do that and then manipulate the chainstay length, for example.
To know what those numbers should be, is that artistry, or could you copy them from an existing bike?
So if you're starting and you don't have any numbers in mind, then using existing bikes is a perfectly valid way of doing it. If you might have ridden a bike in the past that you liked how it felt, where you can go and look, as long as you're looking at the right size, you can look at the wheelbase and some of the other dimensions as well, and get a feel for what that bike was, and that's a pretty good starting place, yeah.
Step 2 of the process, and we're now on to selecting the tubing for our frame. Now, we're confident that the CAD drawing has spat out the right dimensions, even down to the location of the bottle bosses, to make sure that we can get 2 bottles on our frame. But now we're presented with a huge array of different tubes. How are we going to select the right ones?
So there's a few different manufacturers. We're working with steel, and we're going to be using tubes from Columbus, an Italian company. And they offer hundreds and hundreds of different tube options, both in terms of different alloys, so actually slightly different versions of steel, and also different lengths, different diameters, different wall thicknesses and that sort of thing. So as well as the actual physical size of your bike, we have to consider the loading that it's going to go through. Things like how heavy you are, what sort of power output you ride with, and also whether that's power delivered through high cadence or low cadence, and whether you like, for example, sprinting or climbing in and out of the saddle, what your preference is.
Okay, because it's a common misconception, isn't it, that you could get a tube set, let's say, you know, Columbus XCR, which is their stainless steel, and it would give you a certain ride quality, when actually you can alter the diameters of the tubes and the shapes of the tubes and even the lengths of the tubes, and actually that is going to be what governs how your bike feels to ride.
Absolutely, yeah. So the different alloys do have different properties, but they're largely there to give the designer or the builder a range of options in terms of wall thickness, butted profile, shaping of the tubes, and that sort of thing. And combining is actually relatively common to combine different alloys of tubes in order to get different properties in different parts of the frame.
Columbus, on their website, they will actually sell you a seat tube and a chainstay and a head tube in that specific use. So like this one, for example, that is going to be a chainstay.
That one's a fork blade. We've got some chainstays here, so these are some chainstays.
I thought that was a BMX chainstay.
It would look quite good as a chainstay.
Yeah, there you go. Could we play a little game? Could you tell me exactly what each tube was if you turned around and I plucked one out of thin air?
I could have a go.
Right, close your eyes a minute. Hang on a minute, I'm going to find one. That might be easy actually. What's that?
That's a steerer tube, so that's a 1-inch steerer tube for making a fork.
Steerer tube, man alive. What have you got that in there for? And there's that. A mountain bike chainstay?
That's correct, yeah. So that's a chainstay with a bend for big tyre clearance.
Cool. So fork blade?
Chainstay, yes.
Chainstay, yeah, got that one. And then one last thing, we haven't got a down tube yet.
Here we go, here's the down tube.
Whoa, look at that. Here we go then. We've got our tubes.
Let's go build a bike.
Let's go build a bike. Right, we've got our tubes. Tom, is it time to do some welding?
Unfortunately not yet, we've got a few more steps to go. So we're going to cut these down, shape them, so miter them up together. Yeah. Tack them together as well, so that we can get it out of the jig, do all the brazing, and then finish it up ready for paint.
All right, well, at least steps 1 and 2 of the process are now done. We have our geometry, we've got our working dimensions, and we have our tube set. If you want to see those next processes, then they will be in the next 2 videos in this series, and you can get through to them just by clicking down there and down there. Now, we need a much needed tea break, but while we're doing that, make sure you subscribe to GCN. To do it, just click on the globe. How do you take it? Milk, sugar?
Milk.
Cool. Right.